Okay, here's a fun one. Go back at any point in your career and give yourself advice. What would it be and what would you say?
Wow.
And not like go buy
I'm
Bitcoin or anything like that.
Invest in Netflix.
Right.
Interesting. I think I would probably go back to when I worked at Samsung.
Okay.
And tell myself that every challenge I faced would make me better at the right time. Welcome back to Secrets of a Corporate Game. So many people are trying to navigate a corporate world that is laden with secrets, cleverly hidden and unspoken rules to a game that most employees don't even know they're playing. On this podcast, we try to give you a peek behind the curtain and unveil some of those secrets with tips and tricks that you can apply today to start taking control of your career and progress up the ladder faster. Hello, my lovelies. Thank you so much for tuning in for another great episode of That Career Coach's Secrets of the Corporate Game. Today, we've got a little bit of an Uno Reverso on the show. So my husband, David, is joining us, and he is actually going to be interviewing me instead. So you guys get to hear my on-the-fly answers to most of these questions. I have not seen any of the questions ahead of time. So I will be as interested to see how this episode evolves as you guys, but definitely welcome my husband, David, to the show. He was on as one of my first guests back when we first started.
That's right.
Back.
That's right. Well, glad to be back. Glad to be on. I hope she doesn't regret this too much because I snuck in some personal questions as well as some that are, business related and something that you'll be finding some benefit in. So I'm ready when you are.
All right, let's go ahead.
All right. So got him on the phone here. Kendall, how do you feel about me interviewing you right
now? Slightly concerned, but also excited because I think it's interesting when your spouse is a career coach. It's very different. It's very hard to complain about your job to a career coach because I'm like, ooh, what you should do is these 52 things. And so I think it's good to have you involved, have you on the show. And I think it'll be interesting for the audience because a lot of the time they hear my thoughts about whatever it is I want to talk about, but they don't always get the chance to get to know me better. So this will be fun.
For sure. And also being interviewed by someone that you know and have a relationship with can get a little bit weird. So I figured I'd just dust that one off and get it over with. Okay. The second one we've already kind of covered. So have I given any hint to what these questions might be?
No.
The answer is no.
No. So and there's trepidation because you guys don't know my husband, but he will almost certainly throw something in here that I regret him asking. So it'll be fun.
No, it's good. This is a very Mitch Hedberg style of interview where it's just going to be kind of off the cuff, all over the place.
We'll wing it.
So first one, serious question. Talk me through your morning routine.
Ooh, okay. This is a good one because as he knows, I'm a creature of habit. Like I am a scheduled to-do list, checklist type person. So normally my alarm goes off at about 5:30 in the morning. And I roll out of bed at about 6:30 after I've spent an hour looking at TikTok, checking my Instagram notifications, clearing out my email inbox, all the things we claim we're not supposed to do that I definitely do in the morning. And then I work out. So Mondays and Fridays, that's swimming. Tuesdays and Thursdays, that's usually lifting weights or Pilates. And Wednesdays are usually yoga. And then I make breakfast. So one of us is a morning person and one of us is not.
A morning when it's vacation or golf related. One
exactly. So while he's resting, I will make breakfast for my kids and for him. I like to cook. And so for me, this is like an enjoyable kind of peaceful part of my morning where nobody's up yet and I drink my coffee. And then once the kids are off to school or wherever they're going, then I usually start calls at like 8:30 in the morning. And that's pretty much it. And then I'll usually somewhere in the morning find time to journal, read my Bible, do my daily prayers, do my affirmations, like that kind of stuff.
Yep.
But those are usually squeezed in between meetings.
Very good. Very good. All right. How do you organize your Outlook?
I organize it better than you.
I know. I want to ask this question. That's something that's very important. Like, how do you organize meetings? How do you organize emails? How do you put everything together and stay organized.
Okay, so there are two types of people in the world. There are people who have no emails in their inbox, and there are people who have 10,000 emails in their inbox.
It's like 8,800.
There's two types of people. Okay, so this is a good question. Huge thank you to today's sponsor for our episode, Symposia Academia. They assist individuals to get into cybersecurity, and you do not need a degree or any prior work experience. They'll help you land a GRC analyst position in cybersecurity with their 4-step process, which includes training, an internship, interview preparation, and then on-the-job support. In order to get started, go ahead and head over to the link www.symposia.com/channel-partner/KB-3. You can also find this link down in the show notes, but again, it is symposia.com/channel-partner/KB-3 and check them out. So for me, you guys have followed me long enough to know I'm kind of type A, like maybe borderline OCD. So my Outlook is highly organized. There's a few things that I do. So one, in my inbox, there is a folder for everything. So there's a folder for certain types of meetings. There's folders for certain types of senders. There's folders for certain type of content. And I have two Outlooks, right? I have my business and I have my corporate one. So my corporate one, it's like the buckets of work that I do. So my team oversees 6 main deliverables. So there's a major file for each 6. And then there's like subfolders for all the different things that happen. And then there's certain folders that I make for every year. So like, here's the projects for this year. And then there's projects for next year. And here's budget for this year, budget for next year. So I make a million folders. So I'm actually looking at my Outlook off to the side. So how many folders would you say that
Oh my gosh.
50 folders. Probably.
Yeah, with about a dozen subfolders in each of them.
Yeah. So I make a lot of folders because then if somebody says, hey, what's going on with project A, I go to that type of project folder, that project's name, and I know I have all the stuff for it. So
where we differ, you've got 23,000 deleted in there. Mine, once it's deleted, it's dead to me. And so
gone.
Like if I delete you and I clear my deleted items, no more, never again.
I saw something this morning during my TikTok scroll that said Outlook must be a man because just like men cannot find ketchup in the freezer, Outlook cannot find anything in my deleted folder. And I feel like that's true.
The gaslighting is real on Outlook search function. Yes,
search function's bad.
I'll agree there.
So I have a bunch of different folders. And then for my calendar, Sunday nights, I like to get set for the week. So especially because I'm maintaining 2 calendars, one for my business and one for work. Sunday nights, I'll log on and I'll block off all the time on my work calendar that I need to be working on my business and vice versa. And I'll get it all organized. And then I write it down physically because that's how I remember stuff. So then I have a physical write-up of it. But yes, that's how I handle my emails and my calendar.
I knew it was going to be a question where we kind of differed in opinions. So.
I love it.
What is the best career compliment you've ever received?
In my career or from coaching?
In your career.
Ooh. So a lot of you guys who've followed me for a while know that like soft skills was not a natural skill of mine. I really struggled with soft skills very, very early on in my career. I pretty much never spoke. Dave can attest because we worked together. I was very quiet. I never spoke up for myself, never advocated for myself. And then I pivoted too far the other way. And I was really, really direct, like borderline abrasive.
You kind of had to be.
In my industry, it was more common, but still like really over pivoted. And so it took a long time for me to find that sweet spot of how do I communicate effectively while still standing up for myself, advocating for my team. And this was relatively recent, only last year. I had an executive who I think really highly of who said, I want to learn how you communicate because I've never seen anyone do it as well as you do. And I was like, oh, thank you. It's like 10 years of work trauma that I've like turned into this skill set. So I think for me, that's probably my biggest compliment just because it's something I'm very intentional about. Okay.
No, that's awesome. And I was there for the journey of nothing to becoming Backbone Barbie to becoming a little bit abrasive. And so that's just an inside joke she had whenever we first met. And so it was a good one. I love it. All right. What is an interview question that you love? And what is an interview question that you hate?
Ooh. When I'm interviewing or when somebody's interviewing me?
Could be both. Okay. Could be either.
I gotta think. Okay. So an interview question that I So in my current company, if I'm interviewing someone, I love when they ask me what is my favorite thing about working for my company, because I think my company is really different than a lot of places that I've worked. They have a really good culture, really open communication, very little hierarchy. And so it's a question I really like to answer because I feel really strongly about it.
Sure.
But the favorite question that I like to ask is I ask in every interview, what does mentorship look like? Obviously now having become a coach, before I was a coach, mentorship was like my number one. I wanted to have mentees. I wanted to have a mentor. I was really, really passionate about like ongoing development and learning. And so that's my favorite question to ask, because for me, that's my culture tenet that I want a company to have for me to work there.
Yeah.
My least favorite question to be asked is like, what's an opportunity for you to be better? I had at my current role, one of the guys who interviewed me, he phrased it differently. And he said, if I asked one of your peers what you do the worst, what would they say? And I was like, I don't know. I'm great.
That's their problem.
Yeah, there's like no good answer to these questions. Right. And so then we all say like, oh, I think that's too much. Or like, you know, we give some BS answer that I don't feel is actually very representative of who we are. I have had people answer that in interviews with me the wrong way. Be like, oh, people would say I'm kind of a B. And I'm like, okay, maybe don't say that in an interview that you want. So that's probably my least favorite question to ask or to be asked.
Okay. And I followed that up with describe your dream day.
Oh, okay. My dream day. See, this is why I thought this would be fun, because chaos incarnate over here, bringing good questions.
That's what I do.
So it's funny, when I competed for Mrs. Colorado, this was a question I was asked in my interview for Mrs. Colorado. And I jokingly said, drinking mimosas on the beach by myself was not the correct answer. But I think truly like dream day, I would sleep in. Nobody would wake me up.
To like 5:45, 6:15.
I know. My idea of sleeping in is like 7:30. If I hit 7:30, like I was tired. And somebody else making me breakfast or going out to breakfast. Like I love brunch. If I had to pick a meal that is my favorite meal, brunch, I'd do some damage. And there's a place where we live called Urban Egg. It's nice. Anyways, so sleeping in, getting some brunch and a coffee, slow day. And then if we were in Colorado, probably going for a hike with our kids. Like I really like to be outside. We really like to hike. Our kids are finally getting to that age where it's doable. And then probably that afternoon time with like my people, like my friends that I really like and that I'm really close with. Like I love to host. So having everybody over to our house, making a big spread of food because I like to cook, getting to socialize and chit chat. And then once that was over, my children mysteriously vanish and I can read a book by myself in the quiet until I fall asleep. That's probably like my dream day, because I get like time with you, time with the kids, time with my friends, and a book.
Nice.
My fave. Yeah.
That's good.
But if I was at the beach, I would trade beaching for hiking. That would be a trade-off I'd be willing to make. Or poolside.
That is pretty beaching. What can I say? That was bad. All right. Moving on.
Comment beaching in the comments.
Do you have any role models?
Ooh, this is a hard one for me. So I think a lot of the time I've been in a situation where I had to be like I was kind of paving my own path. So it didn't always feel like there were role models I could look at that were doing what I was doing and came from a similar background as me and had a similar experience as me. And so it felt a lot of the time like there wasn't a person. What I would say is I have a lot of people whose advice I value highly on my own journey, right? So 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. Like I tell it all the time on this channel. It's like my favorite book. I read it every year. It literally changed my life. I read 7 Habits for Highly Effective Teens in high school. So like I look up extremely to Stephen Covey and what he's built and how he gives advice and now what his son is doing. I look up to, I think Stephen Bartlett is a really interesting character. He wrote Diary of a CEO and runs Diary of a CEO podcast. And he's very encouraging, very interesting. The Hormozis, Layla and Alex both have tons of knowledge about how to be a great entrepreneur and how to find success. And then I have leaders that I've worked for. Like I worked for an executive named Michael Forrest, who I still to this day think was like absolutely brilliant. He had no college degree. He literally climbed the ranks just by being great. And he showed me so much like tenacity and good people skills and motivation. And so I think there's people that I look to for like pieces of advice and wisdom and growth, but I wouldn't say I have like a singular role model who I'm like, ooh, I want to be this person. I just kind of take the best that people have to offer and I use that to like embolden myself, if that makes sense.
No, and I think that's very relatable. Most people would just be kind of like Tiger Woods or, Martha Stewart or whatever.
Maya Angelou.
Right, exactly. But having the proximity of those types of people who made that type of impact, that's awesome. I think that's great. All right. What are some bucket list items you look forward to the most, both professional and personal?
Ooh, okay. So professional, I want to be a New York Times bestselling author, and I'm going to be. I have decided, in case anyone would like to ask me. And my book, Secrets of the Career Game, is coming out in November of 2024 this year. So that's really exciting. I think writing a book was a huge bucket list item for me since childhood. I've always wanted to be a published author. It's been a huge dream of mine. So to have that being realized is like a huge professional bucket list item for me. I'd love to hit 7 figures in my business.
Sure.
Right? This is like yes, it's financial, but it's more about scale and scope. So I've talked about before, like the reason that I do this is because I want to help as many people as possible. And hitting 7 figures means I'm helping a lot of people. Yeah. Right. And so I think professionally, those are kind of 2 of my biggest goals. When I was younger, I had the goal of being a CFO. And then when I was offered that CFO ship a few years ago, I was like, I don't know if I actually want that anymore. Yeah. So I think professionally, those are some of my big goals. I'm not saying I would turn down an executive role because I think career wise, if I stay in corporate, I continue to stay in corporate longer than I think I will every year, but, I would love to get to that C-suite executive level too. So that's kind of professionally. And I think personal level bucket list items, one is being crowned Mrs. Colorado. I want to do that. I'm going back 3rd year in a row. Last year I was runner up. I'm close.
Wait,
close.
It's official?
It's official. I'm going back.
Breaking news.
So there we are.
Breaking
going
news.
Back.
All right.
So going back to Mrs. Colorado, I'd love to take that title. I think that would be a cool thing. And it gets me part of like a great group of women.
Yep.
I think also personal, it's like staying in a place.
That ain't gonna happen.
I've moved a lot of my life, like pretty much every year to 2 years for like my entire existence. And so I would like to stay somewhere. We've been in this house 2 years, which is good for us. It's good for us.
Almost
2 years next month.
In June.
Yeah.
End of June.
We're close.
Okay.
So we're hoping. So I think staying somewhere.
It's a good one.
Holding my grandbabies.
Okay.
I want to hold grandbabies because then there's none of the pressure of parenting.
Right.
I can literally just like hold them, make sure that they stay alive, feed them candy, send them home. Like I'm really looking forward to grandparent era. I think will be really fun. With that, of course, comes like watching my kids graduate, watching my kids get married, like all of those other milestone things that I think are really big for me. And I think last one for like bucket list, I feel like my bucket list should be more exciting. Like, ooh, travel to this place. Like we've talked about going to Egypt or going to Australia. But to me, those just feel like things we're going to do. They don't feel like pie in the sky items to me. They're just things we're going to do at some point. We're just not there yet. But I would say I look forward to being married to one person for my whole life. Yeah. That's a bucket list.
Better start acting.
For now. That's
right.
We're good. Hey. TBD on that one. Might make my coffee wrong tomorrow and then we have a whole issue.
That's right. Yeah. Those are great. Okay, here's a fun one. Go back at any point in your career and give yourself advice. What would it be and what would you say?
Wow.
And not like go buy Bitcoin or anything like that.
Invest in Netflix. Interesting. I think I would probably go back to when I worked at Samsung.
Okay.
And tell myself that every challenge I faced would make me better at the right time. Because I think for me, Samsung was a really tough part of my career. It's a different culture dynamic. Reporting was structured differently. Leadership operated differently. And somebody who'd always been kind of high performing found themselves like very much a fish out of water for like my duration of my time there. It was like not a super positive experience for me. And so I think I would go back and say like, hey, all these things you're learning now, they're going to help you, because my next job went really, really well because of a lot of the things I learned in that role. And I use a lot of the things I learned in that role as that career coach in my advice. So I think that I would go back to that and say like, it's okay. You're going to get through this. And so if you're listening to this and you're looking for career advice, I would tell you that every bad job you have prepares you for the best job. Just remember that when you're in that hell.
And frankly, I think that makes you more relatable, because it hasn't been just a clean, effortless climb throughout your career. You have to deal with some
there are for sure
yahoos.
Yep.
100%. Okay. What careers do you see our children having?
Okay. So my daughter is very creative and my son is very academic, and they're very, very different in that regard. So I don't see my daughter working for other people well. I'm just going to be honest. She gets a lot of my personality traits, but with way more confidence than I ever had at her age. So I see her being like an entrepreneur and some type of like semi-creative space. So whether that was like owning a catering company or running a art studio or like a painting with a twist kind of place that she would own. Like I can see her owning a business that allows her to be creative in some ways, but also allows her to kind of like run the show the way she wants to. That's kind of what I see for her. I don't know if you agree with that.
Or be in the mafia.
Or the mob as a murderer.
For sure.
No, I think she would. We always joke. She'll either be a CEO or she'll run a gang. There's like very little in between for her. But I can definitely see her owning her own business, stepping into that kind of success. She's very creative. She wants to be an actress or a dancer right now. But I think for her, she won't enjoy that as much when she gets older. I think she'll enjoy kind of like running a business more. So that's where I would put her. My son,
I could see him in tech, like IT.
I was going to say, like, I could see him in cybersecurity.
Sure.
Like, I could see him in cybersecurity. I think that would be a space he'd really thrive, because he would enjoy the, like, the challenge of figuring out what bad people were doing and solving it on behalf of the company. I think he would really enjoy that. Something that I tried to do when I first graduated with my degree in mathematics was go to work for the FBI as like a code breaker. And I could totally see him doing that, because he loves puzzles. He loves the challenge. Again, he likes protecting people. He likes that. Let me save you. Let me help you. So I could really see him doing that, but with that math lens. But I could also see him being like a mechanical engineer. We've talked about before, like I could see him not racing cars, but I could see him being in the pit working on the race cars. Like he would love that and be really involved. He loves to take things apart, put them back together. And he likes that component of it. So I could see him kind of doing something that side of the world as well.
Okay.
So those are, I don't know. Do you agree? Do you
disagree? I mean, there's 7 and 6. And so it's always fun to speculate, but you know, the sky's the limit for them, and they're both super smart. They're both super personable. So I don't see them really having any potential struggles other than interpersonal relationships. Sometimes that might be something that we work on.
Yeah.
Okay. And then last, it's what advice can you give other career coaches?
Ooh, I feel like I'm saying ooh a lot because these questions are unexpected and I'm like not ready for how to prepare.
That's right.
What I would say for other career coaches or aspiring career coaches is staying authentic to who you are with how you approach career coaching. I think a lot of the time we have a tendency as humans to kind of like adjust to the herd mentality.
Just blend.
And we think everybody's helping with job search. So I'm going to be a job search career coach because that's what people do. Or I really disagree with this thought, but everybody's talking about it. So it must be true. And I'll just cave, right? My whole career coaching platform is built on the fact that I talk about all the stuff we're not supposed to talk about, what happens behind the scenes. And there are plenty of career coaches where this would not fit their personality. It's not who they are. That's not how they approach things. But for me, it's very authentic to who I am. Like, I'd rather just tell you the truth. And then you can decide not to play the game, but you might as well understand how the game works. So I would say if you're a career coach, you're starting your business, stay true to who you are and what you want. Don't chase the money. Don't chase the stream of thought of what everybody's doing. Don't chase easy, but instead focus on what do you really care about, what's really important to you, what's really valuable to you, and the right people for the way you want to coach will find you, right? My clients have an 80% re-sign rate with me.
Yep.
80% of people come back and work with me again because I'm attracting the people who appreciate my perspective. And so I would say that if you're thinking of getting into career coaching or you are a career coach, just stay true to who you are and don't conform, because conforming is going to ruin it. It's going to take away your magic. And I recently got back from a retreat in Mexico, and 2 of the career coaches on that retreat decided not to be career coaches on that retreat. One of them decided that she's actually more of a mindset coach. And she's really there to help you encourage your mindset. She doesn't want to be doing job search or resume. She wants to be helping you with your mindset. Another one is actually a leadership and executive coach. She's not helping you with your job, but they had fallen into the career coach trap because it's so easy. It's what everybody does. And that's like the path that makes the most sense. And now they're both thriving and doing much better, focusing on the things they're really passionate about. So that would be my number one piece of advice from somebody who only knows how to do exactly what I'm doing. So that's what I would say.
No, be true to yourself. I love that.
Yeah.
I think that's awesome.
Awesome.
Good advice.
Yay.
Well, that's it. Try to keep it relatively streamlined as best I can.
It was good. This is good. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed learning a little bit more about me and getting to watch kind of the dynamic between my husband and I. If you liked today's episode, go ahead and rate us 5 stars. Leave any other questions in the comments if you'd like me to answer them in the future podcast. You can also head over to my website, thatcareercoach.net, and answer or leave any questions that you'd like me to answer, any anonymous stories, and I will address those once a month on my podcast. Otherwise, thank you guys so much for tuning in.
Thanks, everyone.